Well, 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 how the tables have turned. You get a little praise on social media, and all of a sudden you're like, I want to be in the lead chair. She's Kennedy Smith. I'm David Nuño. And she's like, you can go in the other chair. I don't care. I've got interviews to do. And she said it with that kind of disdain.
What on earth was that impression?
That was you.
I've got interviews to do.
Yeah, that's how you talk. Yeah. That's exactly how you talk.
Hello, I'm David Nuño.
Yeah, I put my hands here all the time like Superman.
Anyways.
Wrong superhero.
Do the advertisements.
No. No, in fact, I'm not going to do one for Academy in Sports and Outdoors. I'm not going to tell everybody that they need to go have fun out there. They should, and if they do it, they should do it at Academy, but I'm not going to tell them now because of the way you've handled this intro. I've had it up to here with you, always smiling and making fun of me behind my back. When you go camping, you better go to Academy, all right?
I mean, I love Academy, but
just have fun out there.
I never make fun of you behind your back. I do it to your face and for everyone to see on camera.
This is supposed to be a college football show, but somehow she want to talk about a bridal party or knitting or...
Knitting?
I don't know. I just felt like saying that.
I'm 24. I'm not 90. Anyways, let's get back to some sports-related stuff other than the Astros, which is kind of all I want to talk about right now.
Let's talk about college football. That's exactly how you did it. That time I did exactly you.
Let's discuss some amazing matchups that are going on this week. In particular, Tennessee, Georgia.
Number 1 versus number 2. It's the first time we've had that matchup in Athens ever. So looking forward to that one. The other one I'm excited about is Alabama versus LSU because is LSU for real? I've been telling you guys I thought Alabama was vulnerable. Brian Kelly's got LSU looking really good. Playing in Baton Rouge is a different animal. I'm really intrigued by those matchups.
I am really excited for the Tennessee-Georgia game. I know as a reporter I'm supposed to be unbiased, but I would love to see the underdog rise from the ashes and Tennessee take this one.
Yeah, but are they really an underdog? They're probably going to be the number 1 team in the country. They've got the best.
Odds pickers say 25% chance of them winning. So that's
odds
an underdog.
Pickers. All right.
That's an underdog for sure.
How about some other storylines we're interested in? What do you think? The whole firing at Auburn, that's interesting, right? Brian Hartson gone, which we expected.
Very interesting. I read an article, and I'm not sure if it was just like fishing or clickbait, but I saw that our old Texans head coach was about to be taking that job. Am I wrong?
No. It's like I can't imagine that happening. I think they've got their sights bigger than that. I think Lane Kiffin's a name you're going to hear a lot. You've probably already heard it.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders is the name. Maybe they'll go even deeper than that. Maybe OB. I hope so. If that OB gets the job at Auburn, then it's an interesting job because they are set to win and they expect to win and they've got the talent, but it's just a different place to coach, no doubt about that. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
Speaking of Deion Sanders, we are actually going to be touching a bit on Jackson State today because we have a very special guest on today, Robert Brazile. He is a Pro Football Hall of Famer and a Jackson State alum and a former Houston Oiler. Also, we have on Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart, as well as some insiders from Tennessee and LSU. Stop making fun of me. This is up to the second college football.
All right, so many great games this weekend, especially in the SEC. You know about it. Number 2, Tennessee visiting number 1, Georgia. Number 6, Alabama. At number 15, LSU. Let's get into it with Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart here on Texags and actually up to the second college football. Tony, how you doing, sir?
I am doing great. I just can't believe it's November. That blows my mind.
Can it be the offseason for us here in College Station already, please? Because this has been a torrential season. We'll get into that in a moment. How about this weekend we got here at SEC must-watch television?
Well, it is, and with the first set of official rankings coming out from the college football playoff, and what's interesting is it looks like everybody's playing everybody. Tennessee and Georgia are going to play. Michigan and Ohio State are going to play. We've got 6 undefeated teams, and it's going to be this is going to be as an intriguing November as we have had in a long, long time. And yeah, the game in Athens, they've never had a 1 versus 2 game in Athens, and it's going to be something special.
So I struggle with this one because I think Georgia, the reigning champs, deserve the love that they get. But I don't know if anybody's got a better resume so far than Tennessee. Would you agree with both those notions?
I would. Matter of fact, I think Tennessee may end up being number 1 in the first official rankings because of those wins over Alabama and LSU. Who's got 2 better wins than Alabama and LSU? So I think that will probably put them at number 1. But it's going to be in some order: Tennessee and Georgia and Ohio State. And we'll use the month of November to figure out where those teams should be placed.
The loser of Tennessee and Georgia, excuse me, do they have a chance in your mind to get into the playoffs, considering the way things have played out in years past?
Yes. I mean, obviously, this happened in Alabama back in 2017. Alabama lost to Auburn. Auburn went to the SEC championship game, and Alabama did not. Still, when everything had shaken out, Alabama got in as the number 3 seed and ended up winning the national championship. So yeah, the loser of the Tennessee Georgia game is going to sit there and say, okay, you got to win the rest of your games, and there's got to be a spot available for another SEC team. And the most obvious example is Georgia losing to Tennessee or Tennessee losing to Georgia. Let's just say the loser of the Georgia-Tennessee game then turns around and watches while Tennessee or Georgia beats Alabama. Alabama's got 2 losses. They're out, right? And so you've got a Big Ten champ, an SEC champ, maybe an ACC champion in Clemson, but you got 1 spot left. And I would have to think in that scenario, when you were weighing all of the 1-loss teams, that Georgia-Tennessee loser would be the most deserving and the highest rank of those 1-loss teams.
How do you assess the way Brian Kelly's turned things around at LSU, and has he completely done it? Because a couple of weeks ago, the offense was struggling, but the record's there right now.
I felt coming into the season that LSU would get out of the gate slowly as Brian Kelly would establishes his system and his personality and his way of doing things. And they've gotten the Tennessee game. I discount that because that's when we found out that Tennessee was really, really good. And they got a lot of momentum there, and so it has not surprised me what Brian Kelly has done at LSU. The guy's a really good coach, but it takes time to implement his system and to implement his way of doing things. And so I think LSU Alabama is going to be a tremendous football game.
So I'm thinking to myself, Lane Kiffin, Bill O'Brien, Deion Sanders, all these names that could end up at Auburn, and they're all successful, right? No doubt about it. But it takes a special type of personality to succeed at Auburn. What kind of personality and who is the best fit for that, you think?
Well, it's got to be somebody, as you just said, who understands the culture. Auburn is unique, and they have had good times and they have had bad times because of that uniqueness. And so it's got to be somebody who not only understands the culture, but embraces the culture. I think that was one of the issues with Brian Harsin, who's a very good football coach, I might add. He is going to leave, and he's going to be very successful at an Arizona State or someplace like that. But I don't think he ever fully embraced the Auburn culture, and you have got to do that, and you've got to understand what it's like to coach at the SEC level, to play at the SEC level, and most importantly, to recruit at the ACC level. And Brian Harsin never got all those working together.
So let's talk about A&M for a moment. It looks like they got their quarterback figured out. Again, you can't base it on one game, but from what we saw, it's the best they've had in a couple of years since Kellen Mond. What did you take from Connor Wegman's performance?
I think there's a lot there to build on. I've told all of my Texas A&M friends, look, you're playing 800 true freshmen. Okay, you have to understand you're playing so many young players, but talented players, that the future looks good. The present doesn't look well. It doesn't look good at all. But that is the nature. So just hunker down, get ready for the future. And if it looks like you found your quarterback, and indeed turns out to be the case, then you've got a big part of your building process taken care of for the foreseeable future.
We both know that Jimbo's not going anywhere, and honestly, I don't think he needs to at this point because he's built up some good grace. But will he change his offense because of this season, or do you think if he shows a little success with Connor, it stays as is?
Yeah, my belief is this. I saw this happen at Notre Dame. Brian Kelly had a tremendous run going. Then all of a sudden at Notre Dame, he goes 4-8. And what he did with his athletic director, Jack Swarbrick, they sat down and had meeting after meeting after meeting of talking about every facet of the program and what needed to be done. And Brian Kelly made a lot of changes, including himself and his approach to handling players. And I'm not in College Station every day. I haven't sat in on the staff meetings, but just watching it from afar, I think Jimbo has got to take a hard look at the way that he's doing things. Does he need to get help calling plays? What is the philosophy in terms of your offense? And as you look at the reality of where college football is now, when offenses, I just think this season. Look, I didn't expect Tennessee to win. Texas A&M to win the division. I did expect them to be a lot more competitive than they've been. And so I think that he needs to take a hard look at every facet of the program and help with Ross Bjork and help him do that.
Tony, great stuff, my friend. Hope to see you soon.
Okay, take care.
Need a new grill? Academy Sports and Outdoors is the destination for your outdoor cooking needs. With our free in-store assembly and pre-assembled grills and smokers, buy online at academy.com and pick up in-store. So keep those grilling plans at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
All right, with me now is Eric Cain with the Locked on the Vols podcast, here to talk a little bit about the Tennessee versus Georgia matchup this weekend. It's a big one. We've got number 1 versus number 2. I think everybody is going to be really excited. I am shocked that this is an afternoon game. Are you?
Well, not really. I figured it would be the 3:30 CBS slot, and you can get prime time later on as well. But I think everybody in the SEC wants that time slot, so I figured Tennessee Georgia was going to be it. So not too shocked, but I think both teams are going to they'd be ready to play this game at 5 a.m. if they had to.
Yeah, I'm sure they're just so ready to go. So what is the general sentiment of the Volunteer fan base right now as the Tennessee team heads to Athens?
Yeah, a lot of confidence, obviously a lot of excitement, but there's a lot to be confident about with this football team, especially with the defensive performance against Kentucky. Kentucky's not gonna lead the SEC in yards per game or touchdowns thrown or anything like that, but it's a solid football team, and you knew the offense has been doing what Josh Heupel's been doing since he got here, been putting up points, and Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt are this unreal connection right now. But seeing that defense step up, forcing 3 takeaways, finding some new guys to play in the secondary where that secondary has been depleted, it's a really good showing. So a lot of confidence right now for Tennessee's fan base, a lot of excitement, and I just think everybody's ready to get to Saturday.
How big of an advantage do you think it is for Georgia to be bringing it back home in their home stadium?
I think it's huge. Tennessee is obviously fared well on the road so far this season, but if you look at those matchups, Pittsburgh home crowd, that was good, but it's not going to be what you see on Saturday. Down in Baton Rouge, it was 11 a.m. kick local time. So a lot of those guys, they were not even awake yet. And then once Tennessee jumped out in a hurry, they didn't come back after halftime. And Tennessee's performed well on the road, but this is going to be a really unique environment. I mean, it's the best of the best. It's the reigning national champions. It's Georgia. That fan base is incredibly passionate, just like Tennessee's fan base. So I think it's going to be critical for Tennessee's offense to operate through the crowd noise. They've been pumping in crowd noise at practice this week, and they're used to that. And a lot of times they go off signals anyway, so that's going to be good there. But it's going to be an environment. It's going to be a good one, and Tennessee's going to have to overcome that to continue on and remain undefeated.
Speaking of that Tennessee offense, Jalen Hyatt just set a national record for the most touchdown catches in a season at 14. So what kind of threat do you think the Georgia defense is going to be for him and the Vols offense?
Well, speed never had a bad day, and Jalen Hyatt has got a ton of speed. But, I mean, obviously it's him and his progression, his development, but it's Josh Heupel and Alex Golish's ability to scheme up the matchups. They do it on film, him and those two, including Hendon Hooker and the two coaches, they watch film together on Mondays, and they kind of identify some individual matchups that might work out a little bit, and then they kind of take it back to the practice field, and they figured it out. I mean, they had a linebacker schemed up on Jalen Hyatt twice when he busted free the other night against Kentucky, and Alabama could not find an answer for Jalen Hyatt, and even when they tried to take it away and they went dime personnel, Tennessee just runs the football. So that's what's been most impressive. But Georgia's secondary, solid experience. They got a lot of playmakers back there, good linebackers. It's going to be another challenge, but with this, the way that Jalen Hyatt is playing football right now, it's almost like only Jalen Hyatt can stop him. So we'll see if Georgia can slow him down, but he's obviously going to be ready for this challenge because it's going to be a big challenge. Georgia's got a really, really good defense.
What do you think the number one thing that the Volunteers need to be focused on as they go and take on Georgia?
Yeah, I would say just continue to be you. It's an offensive-minded football team, of course, and Hendon Hooker's been playing out of his mind. Continue to mix up the tempos a little bit. Don't turn the football over. The big matchup in this football game, and Nolan Smith's not going to be playing in this football game, or at least it's looking doubtful per Kirby Smart on Monday, and that's a huge loss for Georgia. But I think the matchup in this game is going to be Tennessee's secondary linebacker play against that Georgia offense. Georgia offense puts up a lot of points. It puts up a lot of yards. Stetson Bennett, everybody continues to doubt him, and he continues to shine. Brock Bowers, a tremendous player. Trying to eliminate the run, I think, would be huge to say, all right, if you're going to beat Tennessee offensively, you're going to beat it with Stetson Bennett and Brock Bowers. And then you see if Tennessee can take their chances. So try to eliminate one of those things. And I think Tennessee's really good against the run. Understanding Georgia uses their tailbacks in the passing game an awful lot. Kenny McIntosh is, I think, the third leading receiver on that football team. So that's what I'm going to be looking forward to. I mean, of course, you want to see some points and you want to see Tennessee's offense, but I've got faith in Tennessee's offense that it's going to go and do what it does. Just because it has so far this season. I'm intrigued to see what Tennessee's defense looks like coming back from a great performance against Kentucky, but knowing Georgia's offense is much better than Kentucky's offense.
What would it mean for Tennessee and Coach Josh Heupel, who's only in his second season with the Vols? What would it mean for them to take home this win?
That'd be huge. I mean, you've already had a couple of mile marker wins for this program for Josh Heupel here this season. 16 of the last 18, you lost to Florida. You got that win in Knoxville. You lost the last 15 to Alabama. You got that win in Knoxville. Can you go on the road and pick up a big win against the nation's number one team in Georgia? That's up next. It would just be huge. It's been a very long time since Tennessee has swept its three big rivals in Florida and Georgia and in Alabama. Even in 2016, where Tennessee had the Hail Mary to beat Georgia and it took down Florida, it still lost to Alabama. So it means so much to this fan base. And I mean, Josh Heupel can do no wrong right now, obviously, but it would just kind of further cement him into saying, okay, this is a guy that could be here for a long time and not just that rotating cycle of coaches Tennessee's been under for the last decade plus. So it'd be a huge win for the program. Obviously, for this football team, it would be huge because it remains undefeated. It kind of goes past its next big test on the schedule. And you want to take every game week by week, but you look behind Georgia and you've got Missouri, you got Vanderbilt, you got South Carolina. Those are very winnable football games for Tennessee. So this would be a big win in a number of different areas for Tennessee with now SEC championship game, college football playoff aspirations on the line.
So you think if they win this game this weekend, then they're going to go undefeated through 12?
I mean, if you win this football game, there's no reason to think Tennessee won't go undefeated through the regular season, right? You're already taking down Alabama and the big challenges, LSU on the road, Florida. And if you take down Georgia, I mean, again, no disrespect to Missouri, Vanderbilt, and South Carolina, but you're just a better football team than those guys. Right. So there's no reason to not think that Tennessee wouldn't run the table in the regular season. But I know that this team continues to stress throughout media availabilities through the week, and the coaches do as well. You take it day by day, take it week by week. And the leadership's been really good for this team. And I think they've done a nice job of keeping everybody grounded and just focusing on what's ahead to where you're not looking ahead to the next opponent. And so I think that's one of the main reasons why this team has been so successful this season. But absolutely, if Tennessee takes down Georgia, there is no reason why Tennessee should lose another game in the regular season.
Thanks so much. That is Eric Cain. I know we are all looking forward to this matchup. Eric Cain with Locked on the Vols podcast.
Not going to lie, a little jealous of what's happening there in Baton Rouge. Has LSU figured it all out? They got a great game coming up this weekend. Number 6 Alabama is visiting them. To get an insider's point of view, let's go to the hotline right now. Matt Moscona from ESPN Baton Rouge. After further review, joining us. What's going on, Matt? How you doing, sir?
David, I'm doing well, man. When LSU Bama means something, it's way more fun.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that A&M season would mean something. We'll see if it means something for them at the end of the year against LSU. But let's get it done. When you think about this LSU team, like we saw some of the issues for week one, a very winnable game, obviously, and then the Tennessee game. Everybody's struggling with Tennessee. But did you see this kind of success this early from Brian Kelly?
So at this point, I did actually. I had him 6-2 at this point. The thing I had flipped was I had them beating Florida State and losing to Florida. Dave, there's talent on this team. There's not championship level talent. I don't think there's enough talent to beat Alabama. I mean, there could always be a one-off, and you could play out of your mind, and Bama could turn it over a ton, and they could win the game. Certainly, that's possible. But LSU's not at that level yet. But there's talent, and Brian Kelly has instilled a level of discipline and structure around an organization that lacked it completely under Ed Ogeron, as we saw. So yeah, I mean, I did expect them to be better than many thought. I think when you and I spoke in media days, I told you I thought their ceiling this year was 9, and it looks like that may be their ceiling if they lose to Bama and manage to win the other 3. That's where they'd land. But I also felt their floor this year was 7. So I didn't think maybe the floor was as low as some thought, but I also didn't think the ceiling was as high as maybe LSU fans had hoped. So they're actually kind of where I thought they'd be. They got outclassed by a really good Tennessee team. They got a really tough test this weekend with Bama.
So let's think about this for a minute, though. If LSU wins this weekend, they're in the freaking driver's seat for the SEC West. Like, I mean, well, they're still,
crazy.
To me, it's just amazing that that's the conversation right now.
That is surprising. And keep in mind, I told you that the Florida State games had flipped, because I would have had them at 2 conference losses already right now. I thought, they would be good to split the month of October, and they went 3-1. Really impressive to win at Auburn and at Florida. I know both teams are struggling, but David, LSU in their history before this year had never beaten Florida and Auburn on the road in the same year, ever. So what they've been able to do, in taking those 2 games, beating Ole Miss the way they did, the fact that your only loss right now in conference is Tennessee, which there's no shame in that right now, is really impressive. And you're right. I mean, if they win, they're in the driver's seat to win the West, which I certainly didn't think. And circumstances have to happen, like Bama losing to Tennessee for the first time in 15 years. But that's the reality, man. Look, Nick's first SEC championship at LSU in 2001, David, they were 5-3 in the league. They won a tiebreaker in a weird one-off year in the West, and coincidentally beat a Tennessee team that was ranked number 2 in the country that year. So weird things happen, but they got a big test this weekend.
So I'm trying to understand LSU. Look, I see the record. I see what they've done. But also, we're not that far removed from the offense being an issue as well. So what have they done to fix some of those offensive issues?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. And some of it's personnel and some of it's scheme, and they kind of go hand in hand. One thing that's massive is Charles Turner's emergence at center. That's not a very flashy answer that people are going to be excited about. But I'll put it to you this way. First drive of the season against Florida State. First down, Jaden Daniels scrambles for 25 yards, gets hit late out of bounds, an extra 15. They throw first down into the end zone to Kayshon Boutte, contested ball. He doesn't come down with it. LSU ends up with a goal-to-go situation down around the 1. They snap the ball over Jaden Daniels' head. They lose 15 yards and end up settling for a field goal. Well, that was when they had a revolving door at center. If Charles Turner is the starting center that day, maybe LSU scores in their opening possession against Florida State, and that game's completely different. Maybe not. But he has stabilized that unit. That's one part of it. And in the offensive line stabilizing, David, the other thing that's allowed Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, to do is get more comfortable in his play call. And they are just a more successful running team. Early in the year, LSU's only rushing offense was Jaden Daniels on busted plays. I mean, he was LSU's leading rusher early just on scramble drill. Now they've actually established a running game with zone read, with design quarterback runs, working in the running backs. Because their running game has become efficient, it's opened up a lot in the passing game as well. So it's just been a process, I think, of the offensive coordinator learning his personnel and them getting comfortable with their calling, and that's why you've seen that improvement.
Matt, so we knew it would be different with Brian, and then in the beginning there was a little hiccups, the whole accent and whatnot, but what have you learned throughout a season? Because you see things in spring ball, you see things in fall camp, but what have you learned during the season about what makes BK so good?
It's his attention to detail. He is the most detail-oriented coach that I've seen here since Nick. And there's a reason he's been as successful as he has for a head coach for 32 years or whatever it's been. But you're right. Brian, when he got hired, I think we all had our preconceptions about him. And my perception was always just what we've seen, right? The sort of red-faced screaming guy on the sideline. And I thought Northeastern guy, cold, standoffish. He's actually been the opposite, man. He's been warm and engaging, and he tries to crack jokes in press conferences. Every press conference, they're not very funny, but he tries. I think that's probably been the biggest surprise to me. But the reason for his success is just obvious. He has a plan. He has structure. There's no detail that goes unchecked. And that sounds cliche, but everything from sleep patterns to exactly what you eat and when you eat it, travel and how long guys are in the hotel room on road games or it's just, it all matters. I mean, David, last year when LSU opened up against UCLA, some of the star players on the team were riding scooters around Santa Monica like 3 hours before kickoff. I mean, it was kind of a free-for-all with that, and it showed on the field. Kelly is a 180 from that.
So I'm looking at the schedule the rest of the way, and we know life in the SEC. 1 week it feels real good. You got a couple wins. You have a chance for the SEC West. But the reality is very winnable games and very losable games, such as life in the SEC. Alabama, Arkansas, even on the road at A&M, and they're their own story, but maybe they figured out their quarterback situation. When you look at that and what's ahead and how you guys feel about what's going on right now, there is a little bit of a drop-off potential too.
I don't think there's any question. It's hard to win on the road in the league. Georgia should have got at Missouri. Look at A&M this year going to Alabama. I mean, you got to play on the final play of the game to win that game in Tuscaloosa with all the struggles. It is hard. It's just hard, man. It's hard to win in this league. So if you go take anybody for granted, you can get popped. KJ Jefferson presents problems at Arkansas. That's going to be an 11 a.m. kickoff. And the game in College Station, if Connor Wegman, if Jimbo's found his guy, that adds a different element to that offense, obviously. And it's obviously been a disappointing season there for the Aggies, but man, that I would imagine that would be a nice punctuation mark to beat LSU in the final weekend. So, man, what I'll tell you, David, is like LSU is just not good enough to take anybody for granted. Like they're playing well, they're playing hard, they have strengths, they have talent, they're well coached, but they're not so good that LSU can do what Georgia did against Missouri and think they're going to win. So that's the challenge, is to stay focused over this final month, because it would be, I mean, I think you said it perfectly. Even if LSU loses to Bama and manages to beat Arkansas, UAB, and Texas A&M, you go 9-3, and there's a good chance you're in the New Year Six. I mean, if year one under Brian Kelly, they're playing in the Orange Bowl with a chance to get 10 wins, my goodness, that would be an incredible success, an unmitigated success for this team year one.
No doubt about that. So how do they limit Bryce Young this weekend, who is, I mean, even when he loses, he puts up, which is very rare, he puts up amazing numbers.
Yeah. I think the key is your athletic linebackers. And if there is one thing defensively where LSU may match up well with Bama, it's there. LSU is really athletic in the defensive front seven. And I think they could maybe do what Texas was able to do to Bryce Young, which is not let him beat you with his feet, although he's going to move in the pocket. He's going to improvise and make plays, but really make those receivers beat you. And if there is a shortcoming on this Bama team this year, it's that their receivers don't look like they have in the past. I think we'd all agree on that. There's no Jamison Williams. There's no Amari Cooper. There's no Devontae Smith on this team. There's no Ruggs and Waddle and Judy. But the flip side of that, David, which is the unfortunate part for LSU, is LSU's unquestioned weakness is their cornerback position. So if LSU can't pressure Bryce Young and he has time to throw, even though Bama's receivers aren't all Americans this year, they're still better than LSU's corners, and that's a problem. So, and for LSU, I think you realize you're going to give up points, you're going to give up yards, and you're going to have to find a way to score with this team and see if they can do it.
Matt Moscona, we appreciate it, sir. Let's talk soon, and hopefully I'll see you here in a couple of weeks.
My pleasure. I look forward to it.
At Academy Sports and Outdoors, bikes for the whole family are just a click away. Buy online at academy.com with our free in-store assembly. Your next set of wheels, plus helmets, pads, and water bottles will be waiting for you at our in-store pickup counter. Get to the fun faster with our in-store pickup and free assembly at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
All right, guys, with me now, we have got a big guest. It is Robert Brazile, a.k.a. Dr. Doom, also a Pro Football Hall of Famer, a former Houston Oiler, And he also used to play for Jackson State, which is what we're going to be talking about today. I know I want to hit a little bit on what you were doing last weekend with a big Oilers reunion, so we're going to get to that in a second. But first off, I want to hear about your thoughts on Jackson State this year, and especially what Coach Deion Sanders is doing with that program.
My thoughts on it is you can't put a finger on the way I feel about Deion right now. This guy could have went anywhere in America to coach football, but he chose my alma mater. And I'm going to tell you a story how before he got the job, he called me, and it was a phone call that I wasn't expecting. I was having breakfast with my parents, and the phone rang. And like everybody knows, you get a signal, Deion Sanders. I said, So I put it on speaker. So I got my mom, my dad, my kids all sitting around eating breakfast. And I said, Deion, you're on speaker. He said, well, good morning, everybody. I want to talk to Hall of Famer 312. I said, well, Deion, I'm here. He said, well, I'm considering taking the job at Jackson State. And I would like to have your support. That's all I want you to do is support me. And before I could answer, my 90-year-old mother said, yes, he will. And everybody at this table will be supporting you, Mr. Sanderson. And we're so happy. So when mama says something, everybody else go according to it. But to put everything in perspective, Deion has done things like when I used to sit in those lonesome days when me and Walter would work out and say, what could we do to help bring back Jackson State? We would call each other when he was in Chicago and I was playing for the Houston Oilers. And I said, I don't know what we could do. But Deion, the thoughts that we had, Deion brought him back and just blowed him out. This guy, you got stars, then you got superstars, then you got gold jackets, then you got another gold jacket. Deion fits in that other category.
How significant do you think what Coach Deion Sanders is doing for this team is, and more for just the entire community? How significant is what he's doing there?
When you're an athlete and you're trying to choose a place to take you to your goal, Deion is that person. He's got the answer for you. If he touch you, you may get blessed and you may get that. But what he has done as my team and my city, and not just for HBC, for Jackson, for other people in the HBCU, Deion has really turned the program around. He has really brought recognition, notoriety, and good leadership. I mean, you can't ask for better leadership than Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Prime time.
For sure. Do you think he is going to be headhunted by some of these Power 5 schools? I know that Auburn's head coaching position is up in the air now. Do you see him going anywhere?
True. I think he have already visited Auburn, but I think what a lot of people don't know is that Deion got that HBC, that what they call that experience. You got to go to I know you're Aggie, but if you ever go to Jackson State, you want to say, I can have some fun here. I feel at home. It's a safe haven now for kids. And I don't want to say you're not just a person at the big university. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody gets to know everybody. They become family to you. This is what the HBCU do for you. They make it safe for you to ask any question, go anywhere, and meet new friends and family members.
I love that. What do you think is Jackson State's biggest asset on the field right now?
We're going to go back to that same person, Prime, Coach Prime. Coach Prime, Coach Prime say this, I have been around a lot of good coaches. When I say that, I'm talking about from the Bomb Phillips to the W.C. Gordon to Bob Hill, my high school coach, Coach Clark. Deion played the game. He realized what it takes to be somebody, but he's just not preparing you for just football. When I be around him and I go to his meetings and I go see what he's checking on these kids, like, I know he got 2 sons there. We also have 8 or 9 more kids there that he treats them just like Shadur and his other son. They want to know if you're in class. He want to know if you've been to the study hall. He want to know if you had something to eat and what your wants and needs are, and he's going to fulfill them for you.
It's a true family over there.
It's
So,
true family.
Jackson State is matching up against Texas Southern University this weekend. How do you see these two teams matching up?
By numbers, we are both depth-wise great. The only thing that we got different is Coach Prime. Coach Prime.
This is the Coach Prime interview.
When he touch it, he has great coaches. I can't give him all the credit, but he's the center of the credit. The coaching staff that he's got and the coaching staff that he's playing against, it's a little different. Me and Dennis Thurman stay in each other's head because I'm defense, and I'm saying I'm calling the same defense that he's calling, and we're making the same. And I saw some last Saturday, and people won't realize when you got so much faith in your defensive coaches and the defensive team, you go for 4th and 1 on your own 20, and you don't make it, and your defense go out there and turn the ball over in 3 plays.
Yeah.
Then block the field goal. So that's what I'm saying. When you got that kind of coaching staff, and these kids are eager. They're never going to, it's first blood every time. First blood.
It's a little bit of magic right there. So now we're going to go take it back. Tell me about last weekend. You were in Tennessee. You met up with some of your former Oilers teammates. Tell me about that experience.
Well, let's give credit where it's due. Amy Adams Gruss. This lady, I call her my sister, my little sister, because when I was being considered as a Hall of Famer and what she did for my family and for me, it's unbelievable. And we talked about the reunion. I hadn't had a reunion, and I came out of football in '84. My last was 2 years. My first one was 2 years ago. And what she did this year was unbelievable. I got a chance to meet some Oilers that I hadn't seen in a long time, some Titans that I never seen, and we joined this family together. Our family just got whooped. It grew from 80 to 100 and 180 more guys that was at this reunion, and to be treated first class. This is a first class organization, and where she treated us is heartwarming. I really want to cry because I'm so happy because I never had a reunion. We did things in Houston, and I can't say that, but to be back with some of the old guys and to miss some of the old guys, I still miss Curly, I still miss Kenny, still miss all the guys that's passed away, but to go back for that reunion and we continue to have it next year, and the next year it's going to be real, real happy for me.
What did that Love You Blue team mean to you?
Family. You spend more time with your players than you do with your own family. I told people after I retired, I've been everything in the world but a father. So now I can go be a father. So while I was because I spend all my time with the players. To wanting to be the best and preparing yourself for the best, you got to put the time in. And being a football player, you can only realize that I know that I know what you and your mother do. So I know she puts the time in her job. And sometimes you got to go fix dinner, or you got to feed your dad, or you got to do all these other things.
I was always cooking dinner for my family.
No, but it's such a family thing, man. And to be able to be humble with these guys and to see them, because we all getting old. We're all getting old. I said this years ago. It was like an extinct animal. When these Oilers died, there won't be another Oiler, but there will be a Tennessee Titan.
I don't think you look a day over 40.
Thank you, yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about this team and this matchup and just what this program has meant to you, and especially talking about Coach Prime. Can't wait to see how it goes this weekend, and thank you so much for joining us.
Something else before we go, you mentioned something. When have you heard of a SWAC coach being considered a SEC job coach?
I have not.
That's saying you have never heard of that. So with all these open positions with the coaching staff that Dion has and himself, that won't only be him being considered. Other coaches on his coaching staff will be considered for those jobs.
For sure. That's why his name is Coach Prime.
Coach Prime.
Coach Prime. All right. Thank you so much. Everybody, that was Robert Brazile, although he doesn't need any introduction.
Thank you, Gary.
Well, we've got nothing creative to end the show with, so we're just going to say thank you so much for watching
Up to the Second, college football.
Can you say it without the pause? Is it like muscle memory when you say up? This is every time. Up to the second, 3, 2, college football.
I do it like that because the first time I was on this show, I said up to the second football, and I missed the college. So now I get extra emphasis on the college, just so you know. This is up to the second, college football.
Oh, you did it. All right.
It wasn't as cute.
Just like and subscribe.
See you next week.